Presented by Mortgage Right. I'm your host, John Sarianides. And as always, I'm joined by my partner, Kevin Stone. Kevin, how are you this evening?
Doing good, man. Bitching about the heat. How are you?
Well, you know what? That's not a surprise because I haven't met anybody that hasn't been bitching about the heat the last 4 days. This reinforces my point, and I've said this to you in the past. New Englanders are weather weak. I say it all the time. You're the same people, not necessarily you. I mean, you fake pretend like you like the cold, but these are the same people that come December and January, they're going to be bitching about how cold it is, and they're going to be looking for their nearest island to go on vacation on. So it really bothers me. I come back to the same thing. Summer's awesome. It's the best season of the year. Just enjoy it. It's not that long up here. And don't worry, after tomorrow, where I guess it's supposed to hit 100, 103, you're going to get some relief on Friday when it's cold, dreary, and rainy and 70 degrees because that's what happens around here. And that's why people are so sick around here because what ends up happening is you'll go from 103 to 70 because the weather sucks ass up here. So you're going to get your kind of weather. It's coming. Hang in there, buddy.
So look, I've always been a proponent of it's better to be cold than hot. You can
Oh,
get warm quicker. But if you're hot,
after
you
that, no.
so. But hear me out. If you're hot, you're gross the rest of the day. If you're cold, you throw a couple layers on, you're gonna instantly warm up.
No, I
It's
disagree. I think
wild to
there's
me.
no relief from the cold. You can have all the layers you
Oh, bitter
want
cold,
on.
no.
Yeah, I think you can have all the layers you want on. In my opinion, man, I don't think the cold sucks flat out. And here's the difference between the heat and the cold in my eyes. Even if I didn't, and I admittedly love the heat, so I'm the wrong guy to be criticizing the heat with. But what I will say is, I don't give a shit how many layers you have on. The cold hurts. The heat doesn't hurt. Yeah, you got to make sure you're hydrated. Yes, you could end up dehydrated. Yes, obviously, if it's dangerously hot, like any other type of weather condition, it could be harmful to your health. But I just find no matter how many layers I have on, and I'm speaking personally here, I don't care how many layers I have on, I feel it, it hurts. And believe me, there is nothing worse than being out in the cold and then coming in. It takes you a good 15, 20 minutes to get your body temperature back up. I'm all set with that. And listen, you're in your late 30s, I'm 50. When you get to my age and beyond, trust me, you're going to grow to hate the cold. Everybody does. This is why people move to warmer climates as they get older because the cold sucks. It's worse for you, in my opinion, than the heat. And if it's that hot, you can get into AC, hang out, go out in the mornings, go out in the evenings. You can avoid the middle part of the day. When you get to January and it's dark at 4:05, 4:10, and it's in the single digits and teens, there is no if people pretend they like that shit, they're liars. I don't buy it. They can go to hell as far as I'm concerned. So
See,
I
I
don't
feel
buy it. I hate when people fake pretend they like that weather. Nobody likes that weather.
so I agree with you. I don't like the bitter cold either. But I feel you could say the same thing about this. People that say they love over 100, there's no way.
Well, nobody says they love over 100. Yes, even
Some
though
psychos do.
tomorrow will be even for somebody like me who loves the heat. I'm an
Fair.
80s 90s guy. Probably my threshold is probably 80 to 95. But I listen, I don't get excited about the 60s. That's still cold to me.
Oh, I
I
love it.
get excited about the 70s and the 80s. I'll take those all day. But anything under 70 degrees, I want no part of it. I hate it. I hate the weather up here. The weather sucks. People should stop bitching. We never have enough nice weather up here. Don't complain in June because you'll be miserable from October to April. So I don't want to hear from you in June. It's too hot. Shut up. Shut up because half the year here the weather sucks. So move on. And you know what, Stone? You need to shut up about the weather too because at the end of the day, like I said, you're a fake cold weather liker. I don't buy it. I've seen you be cold in the past.
So I don't claim to love the cold. I love the fall. I love
Oh,
hoodie and shorts. 60 to 75 is my
stop
limit.
moving the goalposts. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's not realistic weather, dude,
I
anywhere.
know.
And
But
people say,
fair.
I live 65 to 70. Where's that? What part of this country can you get that climate? Let's be honest.
That's fair.
All
All I
right.
know is
We need
you'll
to
be
move
hearing.
here. This has turned into the weather channel all of a sudden.
Well, I'll be complaining at training camp, but
Well,
that's a
I know
different story.
you complain when it's nice out. Never mind when it's 90 and humid at a Patriots practice. You complain, period. There isn't anything you don't complain about. So what
Not
does
at
it
all.
matter? In any event, we are brought to you by Mortgage Right. Mortgage Right, I should say. Give our good friend Herb Devine a call at 781-254-2846. Or you can shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. With over 27 years of experience, Herb has the knowledge and the know-how to help guide you in the real estate process. Of course, we are now on the back end of the spring season, but we're going into the summer real estate season, and people are buying and selling homes. You need experience in your corner. You want that experience? As I mentioned, give our good friend Herb Devine a call, 781-254-2846. Or you could shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. He and his team are available anytime, including nights and weekends. All right, we're kind of entering the dead period of football talk here now for the next 3 weeks. And then obviously things will ramp up with Patriots training camp and eventually college training camps. So, you know what? We're entering our vacation season as well. We're going to be off the next couple weeks prior to the start of Patriots training camp. After tonight, we'll be back with you on Monday night, July 14th. However, before we do that, though, we do want to tie up some loose ends here. Not a lot going on with the Patriots. Rookies did a bunch of camps at the end of last week. Thought that was pretty cool. Local media was all over that. Patriots do a great job with their community outreach and getting their rookies involved. Will Campbell was out at Great Wolf Lodge, doing the water amusement park there and participating there. With his community. And then, of course, you had Patriot rookies in Hyde Park doing a camp for young kids. And then, of course, the other big story this weekend is Drake May got married. He's officially off the market. He married his longtime girlfriend. Admittedly, I don't know who she is. I don't know her name, so I'm not going to fake pretend like I do. If you do, no, it's not Jordan Stone. If you do, Stone, you can say it. But bottom line is he's married. He's off the market now. I'm sure he will be asked about that when we get to training camp. But again, all is quiet on the Western Front when it comes to the Patriots. It's really now more or less a countdown to training camp, which starts a month, not necessarily a month from today, but a month from today on the calendar. They open training camp on Wednesday, July 23rd. Any odds and ends with the Patriots here before we move on and talk about some other football things?
No, I mean, they signed one more rookie, and it's just Woodson.
Greg Woodson.
Thank you.
Greg Woodson. Yeah.
He signed, so I believe there's only one left.
Travion Henderson is the only one left.
Yep. And again, no one's made a big deal out of it, and they shouldn't. That's just sort of standard, I guess, not policy, but sort of just how things work. Those guys will be signed, or Henderson will be signed, and they'll all be locked in, ready to go before the season started. Speaking of Henderson, and just sort of talking about the community service stuff, he was also doing baptisms, I believe, at Ohio State a couple of days ago. So just sort of a wide range of stuff that they're out and doing, and it goes back.
Wait a minute. I didn't hear this, admittedly. He was doing baptisms? Is he some type of a pastor? What do you mean he was doing baptisms?
I know he's deeply religious, and he had a post on his Instagram story where he was helping people, in the water. So he didn't announce it or anything. It was just on his Instagram. But it just sort of goes back to what Mike Vrabel said to me when we talked to him at the community event here in Waltham. And it's about not just, having guys do community service, but having them do stuff that they're interested in. And I think that goes a long way into building those relationships early on in their careers. So again, it's not a massive, thing. It's not make or break, how their career is going to go here in New England. But I do find it interesting that they really are trying to make sure guys are doing things outside of football that they want to do that's helping the community, because they're just going to be that much more invested as their careers get longer here in New England.
So Travion Henderson, along with fellow Ohio State football players Emeka Egbuka and JTT, I've never been able to say his last name, participated in a large on-campus baptism ceremony. The event, which drew hundreds of students, took place outside Curl Market and was organized by the Revive Student Organization. Henderson and others shared their testimonies and led individuals in baptism. So there you go. So he baptizes people.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, he's
going to be baptizing people in the fall when he's stiff-arming them into infinity once he breaks outside on a run.
Ideally, yeah. But again, it's just, we talked a lot about culture in the offseason, right? Like, it's hard to not love that kind of guy being in the room. I know he's a rookie, and I know, he was never going to probably be an issue no matter what, or no matter what his background was. But you see something like that, I can't help but think it's just another good addition to that locker room that seemingly has a lot of them now.
What, a guy that baptizes people?
Well, man, it's a guy of good faith. That's
A
all.
guy of good faith. Okay.
Yeah.
Ironically enough, I mentioned Jordan, your favorite, and that Drake May's not marrying Jordan. However, Jordan and Drake May's wife have the same last name. He married Ann Michael Hudson. So she's now Ann Michael May.
So I do, yeah, it sounds right. I do remember she was at his press conference.
She was, yes.
That. Yeah.
They've been together, I believe, since 7th grade.
Yes. So, nice. Congrats. I don't have much on
Were you
it.
disappointed you didn't get the invite?
No. I was curious, though. How many of the teammates do you think were invited?
I'm sure a fair amount were.
Yeah, I know, like, obviously he's good friends with Hunter Henry, but then you see pictures and it looked like, one of our college buddies. Just curious, what those relationships are like with teammates now 2 years in. That's all.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he invited people. I mean, who knows if any of the coaches were there. I mean, he's getting to know these guys. It's not like there was retention from last year, but I'm sure there were some of his teammates there. Yeah. I mean, weddings are funny because it all depends on what your guest list is and how many people you have to invite, right? If you're having a wedding of 150, 200, 250 people, that really does limit the amount of people you can invite from work or acquaintances or people that you may not have necessarily seen in years. It really hampers your ability to invite those folks if you come from large families and you have to invite all your family members. So could there have been some Patriots there to watch Drake and Ann get married? I'm sure. And I'm sure the organization and the players alike probably said, hey, it's about Drake and his wife. It's their special day. Don't make it about who was at the wedding. But I'm sure some of his teammates were there nonetheless. And obviously a bunch of his former North Carolina teammates, I'm sure, were there as well. I mean, look, he's 23 years old? Yeah. I mean, by today's standards, that's young to get married. But they've been together for so long, it kind of makes sense. So before you know, we'll be getting the news that there's a little Drake Jr., coming, and eventually he'll be running around, and who knows, down the road he may end up like his old man. Outside of that, again, Patriots doing a lot in the community. May getting married, not a lot going on outside of that. Again, as I mentioned earlier, Patriots are going to be kicking training camp off on Wednesday, July 23rd, which is a little early, but first-year head coaches tend to start camp earlier because they kind of want to get a jump on things and they kind of want to get the ball rolling in terms of reviewing the installation that they've already put in, but it's also about putting in the rest of the offense, the rest of the defense, or what you're going to put in camp before you go into the preseason and eventually the regular season. Boston College stayed busy on the college football front, man. They are really, they're racking up the recruits in that 2026 class, man. And, you wrote about it today on anyfootballjournal.com. They had a big addition that they picked up yesterday. They added an international commitment last night.
Yeah, big literally and figuratively. 6'9", 270, Bruno Werner, out of Germany. An offensive lineman, specifically a tackle. And here's our proverbial Matt Applebaum spot. I love it for him. Look, it's another guy that he can kind of mold, right? Like this kid, he's been through the NFL Academy, which, by the way, we don't talk about enough. That program is phenomenal.
Yes. That program may save college football in some parts of the country. I'm not kidding when I say that. I'm not kidding when I say that.
I want to go back to that just real quick on Bruno. He just hasn't played that much football. Like you watch his huddle film and he looks the part, but how much ball are you really playing at a high level? So the idea that he can come here and work with the coaching staff like this one, I think is huge. And you go and look at his tape again, and you can speak to this better than I can. He certainly looks like he belongs at a Division I ACC school He had, I believe, 10 offers. Places like Florida and UNC were a little bit late showing him interest, but UMass, URI, and Bryant had all offered him. UConn had as well. But BC in general, they're up to 22 recruits in this 2026 class, and we've hit the dead period, but I wouldn't be surprised if they hit 30 at this point. I honestly wouldn't. 30 might be, now that I say it out loud, might be a little high, but they're going to get some more before, we hit training camp. So, yeah, they've been rolling, but just back to the NFL Academy thing, BC's no stranger to it. I mean, they brought in Pep Sai a couple 2 years ago from Senegal. He looked good in spring ball this past March and April. He's made some big strides. And then Andy Quinn, the kicker, really the punter, at least I think, from Ireland. So, but I want to have more from you on that program. I didn't realize it's as big as it is, but they're pumping kids out left and right, not just at BC, but all over the country.
Well, UMass also picked up a commitment last week from an NFL Academy player, Samu Suminen. He committed to UMass, an offensive lineman,
Great
kind of a
football
late
name.
bloomer, a little bit like Warner. But yeah, it's a program that I think is going to become vitally important to college recruiting for all programs at all levels of college football, because I do think that football is going to get to a point, especially when it comes to offensive linemen, where college coaches are going to have to recruit beyond our borders. And you're seeing it. You're seeing it at the high school level. The private schools around here do a great job of that, including our good friend Jeff Moore down at Tabor Academy. He does a terrific job with using international programs, specifically when it comes to getting players from Canada, to get them to come here, go to school here, get them an education, get them recruited, and then they get a chance to get a college education and play college football. And I think you're going to see more and more of this because, like I said, again, we're going to get to a point where you're not going to have enough offensive linemen. I'm not going to go as far as saying you're going to have an offensive line shortage per se, but you're not going to have enough offensive linemen. And so I think programs like NFL Academy are going to become vitally important to the game of football when it comes to college recruiting in the coming years, because there's so many young men that are in Europe, in Africa, parts of Asia, that have the physical makeup to play the game of football that may not be soccer players, that may not be basketball players, that may not be hockey players, but you bring them over here and they play American football, and now all of a sudden they find a home. They find a sport that fits their size and their skill set. So I think it's terrific what this NFL Academy program is doing. I think it's producing a lot of talent that is talent that can come to the United States and develop and play eventually. And I think you're going to see more and more of a reliance on programs, international programs like this, because again, you're going to need the bodies here up front, but you're going to need to give these kids a pathway and an opportunity to coming here and getting an opportunity to play football and get a college education. Again, I think for a lot of kids like this, where they don't have an opportunity in another sport in their home country, to have the opportunity to play football and come over here and experience that, I think it's huge. And again, I think it's going to help these programs. Look, in the early 2000s, I coached at Franklin High School with the late Steve Sidwell. His son Brad and I had been friends for a long time. I was the offensive line coach at Franklin High School, and Big Sid, as we called him, was a longtime NFL defensive coordinator. He coordinated the Dome Patrol Saints in the 80s. He coordinated under Pete Carroll with the Patriots. He coordinated the Seahawks defense under Mike Holmgren. He had been around. He's been one of the best defensive coaches in the NFL. And in 2003, he kept talking about he had gone to Germany, and he kept saying, man, that's the next frontier in football. He used to call me big fella. And he used to say to me with his Midwestern drawl, his Colorado accent, as I called it, he used to say to me, big fella, I got to tell you, if somebody's smart enough here to do it, they should set up a German exchange program for these boys. There are some beef eaters over there now. And I used to think, I mean, I get doing this with Samoa and the Polynesian cultures, because Polynesians and Samoans have been playing football for a long time. I kind of understood focusing on that group of individuals because they have a history with the game. But in my mind, I'm thinking, outside of the World Football League and outside of NFL Europe, what exposure have these kids had to American football? Okay, the U.S., obviously the NFL goes over there and plays the games in London, and now they're playing the games in Germany. But in those days, they were barely playing in London, and they weren't playing in Germany at all. That's a recent thing. So in my mind, I'm thinking these young men haven't had exposure to American football. So why? What makes him think that outside of their physical makeup and their traits, what makes him think that this would be a good idea, that they would want to come over here and play American football? And yet here we are 22 years later, and the conversation has shifted now. Those kids are coming here and playing football. They are involved. They are engaged. They're getting an opportunity to get an education. They're getting an opportunity to play a sport that fits their skill set. And I just think it's terrific. And I think it's been a long time in the making. And I think programs like this are going to continue to grow in popularity. And you're going to continue to see more and more kids come over here. Because, again, the opportunities that they have, I mean, you don't get those opportunities every day. And if you have the size, the speed, the skill set to play football, then I think it's a tremendous opportunity for them. And I think a lot of these kids ultimately, Kevin, are going to take advantage of that opportunity. And we're seeing it here. I mean, getting a Division I football offer to a school like Boston College, getting that Boston College degree, which is a 40-year degree, as Boston College likes to say. Getting that degree, getting the opportunity to play big-time college football on the ACC, and, oh, by the way, getting to play for a coach like Matt Applebaum, who can prepare you to play at the next level and prepare you to play professionally. I mean, you can't beat that.
Yeah, it feels like the next step in this, like specialist and lineman are one thing. When we start seeing this,
you're gonna see it across the board. I don't know if you're gonna see it at the skill positions as much.
That's what I'm getting at.
Offensive line, defensive line, edge, linebackers, possibly safeties, specialists.
Yeah,
that's where I think you're gonna see that talent influx come in from other parts of the world.
So that's kind of where I was going. Once you start seeing the skill guys, then it's really kind of blown up. Don't get me wrong, it's blown up, but the NFL Academy is well established at this point. I mean, we talked about just the BC guys alone that have joined the program, but once quarterbacks and receivers and running backs, overseas start seeing what the opportunities are like, I think this thing takes on a whole sort of new life of its own at some point too.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's a golden opportunity for these young men, and I'm glad to see that college coaches now and even at the high school level, private schools are starting to give these young men that opportunity because, look, it's an easy sell, right? If you're a 6'7", 6'8" offensive lineman, let's say from Canada, right? And we've seen plenty of guys that have played in private schools around here that fit this profile. But if you're that type of player and you have the opportunity to come stateside and get a great private school education and then get a great college education, I mean, how do you pass that up? I mean,
well, especially, you don't know what their means are living over there. If they have a chance to change their family's life, that's life altering too. So
it's a life altering decision.
Yeah, 100%. So good for BC for taking advantage of the opportunity. I think this kid has a real chance. Again, we've never seen him actually play, American football in front of us, but I'm looking forward to seeing him next year already. But just in general, what the NFL Academy has done, again, deserves more talking and more talking about than we do, and really than anyone does, because what they've done for college football, especially now when kids are all about the bag, it's impressive what they're doing, man. It really is.
Yeah, and Boston College, like you said, and we've talked about it the last couple of weeks, they've really built a lot of momentum with this 2026 class, continuing to add guys and across the board, really. It's not just in one specific area.
Yeah, no, I think 12 guys are outside New England out of the 22, which, again, we talked about this last week. It's one thing to keep the fence around, but it's another to sell this program outside of, the normal areas. Not just Jersey, not just Connecticut. Like, they're getting Georgia, Florida, Ohio. They're going everywhere. And again, Germany. So they're doing it right. And again, we talked about this as well. It's their first real class for this staff. Like, they came in so late into the game last year this is the first time they've been able to go out and really hit the ground running recruiting. And they did a hell of a job in June. They really did.
No, they did, and I think again, kudos to them. You have to give them credit. This is going to be a class for them that's going to be a big part of the future of the program, and they're
I
going
was
to
going
be
to say
leaders in the class.
it's gonna be their legacy, for lack of a better term. It
Yeah,
really could be.
yeah, yeah. And UMass, of course, continues to stay busy. Joe Harris-Simiak and his staff picking up a couple more commitments today. Christian Alvarez, an offensive lineman from New Jersey, committed today, and Teron Johnson, a skill guy and athlete, also committed today as well out of New York. He's out of New York, but he played at St. Thomas More. So, I mean, again, you see it. This is and Johnson brings a lot of speed to the table. He's about 5'11", a $175. You see it, but again, it speaks to these guys know what they want, what they're looking for in players, and they're going out and they're adding those players. They're bringing the type of players they want, both from a character locker room perspective and from a talent philosophy perspective. You got to, and I said this last week, Kevin, you got to tip your hat to Harris-Simiak and his staff. They've done a terrific, terrific job in recruiting, and they're balancing their recruiting. As I said last week, they're going the organic high school route, but they're also heavy emphasis on the transfer portal. Over 30 guys came in the portal this year alone. They revamped that roster. They have done a terrific job, and obviously, again, you hope it pays dividends in the fall. Jim Mora was on with the legendary Jim Rome this week. I did an interview with Rome, and of course, we've had Coach Mora on this show in the past. He joined us last spring. Some pretty interesting things to say in typical Coach Mora fashion. He doesn't pull any punches.
No, and to his credit, he says, look, and again, we're not going to regurgitate the entire interview. He said a lot of the same stuff that he's been saying about, tampering and teams trying to poach their players. He said, look, I'm at the point in my career where I don't give a shit. I'm going to call people out. And I think I've earned that right. And he absolutely has. You coach as long as he has.
Did he say he doesn't give a shit?
I don't remember. I
don't think he would have said that.
He said crap at the very least. But either way, he's right. Like, he has earned that right. Now, he also said they can call people out as much as they want. If the NCAA doesn't do anything, they're just yelling at the air. It's the old, Abe Simpson yelling at a cloud type of gift. But he's right. He's earned that right. And coaches should call it out, which is also what he said. We talked about this, God knows, how many times, and we'll talk about it more as the summer goes on. It's still chaotic. There's still no rules. It's a free-for-all. It's free agency. It's a disaster. But if a coach is going to see something and have the balls to call it out, good for him. I give Jim Mora all the credit in the world. And to do what he's doing at a place like UConn at a time where people can be bought out is even more impressive. The fact that they've gone to 2 bowl games in 2 of the 3 years is phenomenal. And it just goes to show that, if kids do have that respect for you, they're not just going to take the bag. So all the credit in the world to Jim Mora for continuing this crusade, if you will, against the debacle that is the NIL period.
Well, I mean, again, but that's the lay of the land, right? That's the world we're living in now, where you can rail against it all you want. And I appreciate that Coach Mora is taking a position on it. But the fact of the matter is, as much as you can rail on it all you want, it's a necessary evil in today's college football world. And if you're going to coach at this level, I think as a college coach, you recognize that, hey, this is a part of the deal now. This is what we're going to be dealing with here. This is not something that it can be avoided. It's a necessary evil. You have to be competitive in the transfer portal, in the NIL world, because if you're not going to get players. And I don't care how good a coach you are, and I don't care what your philosophy is on offense, on defense. Bottom line is you win with players. And if you can't get players, well, then that's a major, major problem. And I think in this case, while I love that Mora has railed against it, I think he also recognizes, hey, we have to use it. It's a part of the deal. You are watching / listening to the New England Football Show, presented by Mortgage Right. I'm your host, John Sarianides. As always, I'm joined by my partner, Kevin Stone, and we do want to remind you that if you're in the market to sell your current home, but purchase your first home, I should say, or refinance, give our good buddy Herb Devine a call, 2846. You can also shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. He and his team are available anytime, including nights and weekends. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about Thomas Castellanos and some comments that he made either this weekend or today about it being his dream to play against Alabama and beat Alabama. I know that you covered Tommy. You had respect for Tommy when he was here. You liked him, but you've also been very critical of Castellanos in the past few months in terms of how he left Boston College, his departure from BC, and kind of what he's had to say since he's arrived at Florida State. And, of course, he's going to get an opportunity to play for Mike Norvell and Gus Malzahn. But you didn't like this comment, and I would tend to agree with you. I thought it was poor timing, and it falls under the category of be careful what you wish for.
So it wasn't just that one. That was the first one I saw. And that one, you just kind of shake your head. It's a college kid, college kid's flapping his gums. But this one is what bothered me. There's one with Peter Nakos, who's been phenomenal for On 3
He's terrific
throughout this entire recruiting cycle.
He is, if not the best college football insider, probably one of the two.
100%. Bill, and this is now Tommy saying, Bill O'Brien and I butted heads early in the season. I got banged up a few games. We had a meeting, and it kind of blew up in my face. I did so much for that program, and I just wasn't repaid the right way. What? You're kidding, right? So we're not going to talk about the car that he was given, the NIL money that he was given, the apartment that he was put up in, or the fact that he actually made the offense regress. We're not going to touch on any of that. We're just going to let him say that he did a lot for the program and that he was underpaid or not repaid correctly. Look, you said it perfectly. I respected him and the way he handled his media obligations when we covered him. But, man, this kid's got to stop talking. He is not as good as he thinks he is. And yet again, you can speak to this far better than I can. For a quarterback in the ACC, he can't throw the ball or not well enough to be a good ACC quarterback. He's fast. He's quick. He can make guys miss. Other than that, I don't think he can read the defense well. I don't think he sees the field well. I don't think he throws the ball that well. So, having said all that, good luck to Florida State. They're probably going to need it with him in your locker room. Off the record, some things I've heard from former teammates. This is not surprising what he said, but just, man, you got to know who you are and sort of what you've done. The kid hasn't won anything. He had one good stretch for BC in a year that, mind you, they still went 7-6 and won the Fenway Bowl. So it's not like he brought him to a playoff or anything like that. This really bothered me today because that staff last year bent over backwards for him to try to make it work before going to Grayson James. Grayson James should have been the starter from day one, and I said that in April. And people are now seeing why he sort of wasn't really liked in that locker room. He was voted a captain basically more or less because they had to. He was the big man on campus. He was being paid. But, man, this bothered me today because not only is he trying to throw BC and that staff under the bus, but he's making it about himself. And any success that team had with him there was because of the team and not because of him.
Well, yeah, look, and I said it when he left here, and I'm going to echo the same sentiment. We're not here to bash these kids. We're not here to question why a young man has decided to go play somewhere else. It's their business, their prerogative. The system allows them to move around as much as they do. So, you know what? If a kid says, I want to leave, I want a different opportunity, I'm going to play somewhere else, they choose to do that. They choose to pursue that avenue. So be it. That is their business. I just think I just wouldn't talk. I just wouldn't say anything. If you're him, if you're him, it's more about just stay off the grid, man. Say less. Make sure you're doing what you need to do in your summer workouts. You're taking your summer courses. You're getting your coursework done. You're focused on yourself and being a better player. And then let your play do the talking in the fall. Don't talk about wanting to play Alabama now and it's been your dream and you're going to do this and you're going to do that. I mean, come on, man. And look, to your point, I'm curious to see how it works in that offense because my guess is Norvell and Malzahn are going to run some type of a combination of what they've always run. But to your point, he's going to need to be able to effectively throw the football for Florida State to bounce back and be more competitive this year. If he ends up their starting quarterback, he can't be their starting quarterback if he's struggling to throw the ball. So, I mean, again, it's great that he's talking. It's great that he's confident. It's great that I guess you could say he has his edge back. But I would tread lightly if I were him. I would say less. As today's generation likes to say no more. I would say less. Don't do any more talking. Focus on yourself and your play.
Talking about BC is one thing. He can speak from experience. Calling out Bama is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Like, before you even touch the field for a brand new team that you haven't even had training camp with yet, you're calling out the powerhouse or one of the powerhouses in college football.
They may not be what they were, but
of course,
and he echoes that sentiment in the comment that they're not what they were under Nick Saban. But again, why say it? Don't say anything, dude.
Right. Yeah, you know, I'm a big proponent of you can't fix stupid. That saying, this is a dumb comment.
Would know. Nobody's been able to fix you for years.
Correct. You're not wrong. So, again, it's just the whole BC thing. It bothers me because he quit. He flat out quit. That meeting he references, we talked about this a lot last year when he found out Grayson James was going to be the starter. He threw a temper tantrum and was gone 2 days later. Flat out quit. So for him to have the balls to say this kind of stuff, again, about a place that bent over backwards for him, it's just mind-blowing to me. And it speaks to the athlete today. Again, I'm not grouping all athletes together, but the pampered, overpaid, the athlete that thinks he's worth more than he is. That's Tommy right now. And to your point, just shut up, man. Stop talking until you hit the field.
Yeah, like I said, let your play do the talking. There's no need to be bumping your gums in June. Do your talking in 2.5 months from now.
On the flip side, it's a shame they're not playing
right now.
No, it's a shame they're not playing each other this year, though. That would have been awesome.
Yeah. No, and it would have made for a good storyline for sure. And look, do you see a Boston College player doing that? No. I don't see a UMass player doing it. I don't see a UConn player doing it. So we know in those programs that we cover in the area, the coaches that we know they run tight ships, and they're not going to let guys run their mouths in the media.
And to that point, I loved what Joe Harris-Simiak had to say. If you remember, the last day of spring ball, basically calling kids out for their attitude and stuff. And then we ran into an assistant a few weeks ago who said, we had some kids that we had to kind of either talk to or say, maybe this place isn't for you. So I love the fact that they've cleaned house from that. The other schools around here, to your point, run that tight ship, and make sure this doesn't happen. This is also a Florida State thing. Like that they're in shambles right now, stemming from last year. If I'm Norvell, I can't be happy about this. Like, keep your mouth shut, dude. You haven't even put a uniform on yet.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if Norvell necessarily is going to see it like you, but yeah, I think a lot of coaches
can't help
look, let's put it this way. We all know this isn't going to happen in North Carolina. Guy's not going to transfer into the program and he's going to start running his mouth. We know that if a guy transfers into the programs around here, it ain't going to happen. And we sure as shit know it's not going to happen in Chapel Hill. Hill.
Well, I was going to say,
it's corny and I hate that. But nonetheless, that's not going to happen there. We know that because Belichick's not going to let it happen. I don't know why Norvell thought it was a good idea to poke the bear and have his presumptive starting quarterback running his mouth about an opponent. I just don't get it. I don't understand it.
The only difference with Belichick is he can't trade a kid, to Cleveland or Atlanta, and just have to cut him. But no, I can't
pick him out of the program.
No, yeah, of course. But no, you're right. It speaks volumes about where Florida State is at. But man, it generally bothered me today. Again, having covered him, I mean, he said and did everything right, in front of the media when he was here. But behind closed doors, he was not a good teammate. He just wasn't.
Yeah. Some high school news, Bob Lomp, longtime and very successful head football coach in the area. He's won 145 career games. He was named the new head football coach at New Bedford. Lomp coached at Sandwich the last 2 years, and he led the Knights to a 9-2 record last year. And they got to the second round of the playoffs
this is a tremendous hire for New Bedford. And New Bedford has been a program that has been a quote sleeping giant for a long time on the South Coast. And you get a guy like Bob Lomp in there, who's a proven program builder, who did it at Apponequet, who did it at Wareham, who's done it at Sandwich. Now he's going to get a chance to do it with a Division I program in New Bedford. This is huge coaching news in Massachusetts. Kudos to the New Bedford administration for landing a coach of his caliber this late in the process. We saw something similar to this last year when Sharon was able to land Ben Schufane. But this is a tremendous hire for New Bedford football. And New Bedford football has had some success here and there through the years, but it's been a program that has largely been inconsistent and at times dormant. And I think a guy like Lomp, who's a proven program builder, who knows what it takes to get a program going and revive it, I think he has the potential to do a really good job at New Bedford.
To your point, being this late in the in the game, training camp starts in, you can call it a little over a month, right? Like we're just about in
not
July.
high school training camp. We're still about a couple months.
Yeah, but it starts in August. So give or take, now that he has a job, he's only got about a month ahead of time. Having that program builder who knows what the ground, that ground floor build looks like, that's huge for training camp. Because now you can hit the ground running. Obviously, he's going to get to know the kids this next, little while here. But a guy with that kind of experience, if you hire a first-time head coach this late, their head's spinning right now. You would know. I mean, you've taken over programs before. Like, how hard it is to get things going that first year.
It's hard. It's right. It's hard to take over a program when you do it in the winter. If
Correct.
You're doing it in January and February.
But in June or July.
Yeah.
June or July, yeah. So the fact that he has that much experience, it's a big move for New Bedford because, again, I think they can hit the ground running and maybe not have to play catch up, even though it is this late in the game.
Yeah. No, I agree. And it's a terrific hire. Obviously, we've also had a lot of commitments in the area this week as well. Amon Williams of Randolph plays at Tabor Academy. He committed to Central Florida this week. Big one out of Dexter Southfield. Charlie Hannafin committed to West Virginia. Jude Okaleki just committed to Temple yesterday as well. I think when you look at these commitments, Kevin, I think it just reinforces what we've been saying on and on and on for the last few years. I mean, recruiting has ramped up here in New England. You've got a lot of talent. And now it's not just certain Power 4 schools that are coming here or predominantly group of or 5 schools. I mean, you're seeing Power 4, group of 5. You're seeing a lot of big-time college football programs and programs that are known and reputable that are saying, like a Central Florida, for example. I mean, Scott Frost, Central Florida, recruiting New England, you don't see that. But you're seeing more and more and more of it. And it's because, again, there's a lot of talent here. I mean, Williams is a guy that's got untapped potential. That's a great pickup for Central Florida. I mean, he's a guy that could potentially play there pretty early. Hannafin, we all know the athleticism in that family and what he brings to the table. I think he's a terrific pickup for Rich Rod and the Mountaineers. And I think Okaleki, who I spoke with today, and we're going to have a piece up with him tomorrow, our interview with him tomorrow. I mean, another guy, an interior defensive lineman, explosive, get off, plays with a good pad leverage. He plays at Taft. I mean, again, it just speaks to the amount of talent that is here, both in terms of public schools and Catholic schools and private schools. And I said it 3 years ago, and I'm going to echo the sentiment. I think you're going to continue to see more and more programs come in here, programs that traditionally only recruited up to a certain point.
It's a few things for me. And one, it speaks to the coaches around here and their willingness to promote their kids and the willingness to build relationships with the college coaches and not just think about the regular season or winning a state title. But look, and you know this again, it's a year-round job. High school coach, your job year-round, if not to win games, it's then to get your kids recruited. So the fact that they're willing to put in the work and build those relationships, I think, is important. And then the showcase days, how much have we talked about what those have done? All these schools now have an opportunity within 2 to 3 days to go all around New England and see these kids, as opposed to having to watch thousands of hours of film in their office or, having to hear word of mouth from a couple of scouts and taking a shot on a kid. So, to your point, this is only going to get bigger. And then the other thing too, if you remember a few years ago, Jeff Halfley, when he was recruiting here, said people are starting to notice that it's not just big guys and tight ends. The skill players are starting to get noticed around here as well, and you're seeing an uptick in that too. So between the camps, the coaches, just all of it, New England is sort of, I guess, sort of put all. I'm looking for the right word here. New England as a whole has put all of their eggs in one basket and sort of come together to make sure college football is on the map around here as well when it comes to recruiting. So you're right. This is only going to get bigger, and the talent is only going to get bigger and better as well.
Yeah, Noah Frazier from Cheshire also committing to Delaware this weekend. I mean, again, there's another program now that they are an FCS program. I'm sorry, an FBS program. Now that they're an FBS program, you're going to see more of a footprint here. Again, this is a coaching staff at Delaware that has a lot of ties to the area, coaching ties. They have inroads around here. So I think Delaware, with this Frazier commitment, is going to be a player up here. It's again, you're only going to see more programs enter the area. And of course, as we get kids committing to these schools, we're going to do our due diligence to hear their story and hear why they decided to commit with our Catching Up series. So make sure you're following along at anyfootballjournal.com for that. And of course, with recruiting, we're also going to try to continue with our recruiting roundup. We've got some schools that we're going to be featuring here in the coming weeks with that, and some other stuff as well. And again, we're going to keep you tied in throughout the summer, especially with the 7-on-7s and more of the college commitments and college programs wrapping up recruiting. We got a lot coming up, so make sure you're following along for that. Yale also announced their class of 2029. They're bringing in players from 12 states and Canada. Two of those players, of course, are coming from Massachusetts. Hugo D, again, I've never been able to pronounce his last name, running back out of Tabor. He is going to be going to Yale, and that's a great pickup for them. But Tony Reno and his staff, once again, doing a great job, not only recruiting New England, but also recruiting the country and internationally. And again, we talked about this with Harvard and Dartmouth and Brown. That speaks to the Ivy League brand, right? And how powerful it is, not only nationally, but also internationally. I mean, you can't beat the quality of that education. It's a world-class education, and it's also a world-class playing experience when it comes to football, because not only are you going to get a great degree, but you're going to play in a program and in a league that has a rich history and tradition. And, oh, by the way, can now compete for a national championship. Kudos to Tony Reno and the staff. They had another great class. Of course, his son Dante is also transferring in from South Carolina, but they do a great job with recruiting every year.
I was going to say that Ivy League degree, that'll go a long way in convincing a kid to kind of to uproot his life and move here. And you mentioned the playoff thing. That can't be understated.
No.
You can now sell a kid that you have a chance to win a championship and get an Ivy League degree. You don't have to go play at the SEC or the ACC just to be able to call yourself a champion. You can now do it at this level. And oh, by the way, and again, we say this every week, but the Ivy League games in particular, every single one feels big, no matter where we are.
Yeah, it's a 10-week sprint.
Exactly. So those schools, why they get overlooked, I don't know. Well, I do know it's because they're FCS, but you can't overstate how good it is, how good that experience is between the education and the football. And to the international point, you're going to start seeing more kids there too start making that jump as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm going to wrap up the show here in a minute, but I know you wanted to talk about the 4th of July. Before we do that, by the way, Mass Pirates have now won 4 in a row after a big 58-37 win this weekend over the Tulsa Oilers. They'll be in Quad City in Illinois on Saturday night for a big game against the Quad City Steamwheelers. But this was a big win for the Pirates. They're really they're playing their best football of the year. Quarterback Kenji Barr, 4 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns. Those receivers, Taylor Redding, Thomas Owens, they're starting to really become an integral part of the offense like they've always been. And Puka Williams, the former Kansas running back, he has been terrific stepping in and replacing Jimmy Robinson. I mean, the Pirates, this is an organization that has a championship pedigree in recent years. They've been one of the best programs in the IFL. Coach Tom Menace has them playing at a high level right now. They're playing their best football at the right time. They're 6-5, but they're making that late season charge to get in. And as you know, once you get into the playoff, Stone, to quote Kevin Garnett, anything's possible.
Good product. We talk about it all the time. If you haven't checked out Into a Game, how would suggest doing it? It's unconventional.
They do a great job at the Songus Arena with it too as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, we're looking forward to covering the rest of their run. I'm going to throw a little swerve at you. I was going to do 4th of July.
No. Well, I was just gonna mention you wanted to bitch about 4th of July, so here's your platform.
No, do not bitch. I actually want your opinion. First of all, 4th of July and Memorial Day.
They're both great American holidays, and they're both summer holidays. I love them both, so I'm not picking one or the other. I love them both.
So I don't hate the 4th of July. I'm not an American. In fact, I love the idea of the day just, being all about the country and people getting together to celebrate. It's the summer thing I don't like. Like, can we figure out a way to make these celebrations a little bit better? Like, it feels like amateur hour.
Well,
it feels like amateur hour.
See, now you're going to piss me
It feels
off.
like so New Year's Eve.
What make what better though? It's a summer holiday, dude. It's about celebrating our country. It's about barbecuing and being with family and being outside. I mean, what the F do you want out of this?
There's an amateur hour-ish element to it that I like. There just isn't. Maybe it's a me problem. I don't know.
It is a you problem because there's nothing amateurish about the 4th.
So again, it's not the holiday.
We've all established, Stone, that New Year's Eve is amateur hour.
Yes.
St. Patrick's Day is amateur hour.
Yep, 100%.
I don't care what anybody says. Everybody loves St. Patrick's Day, top of the morning to ya. You want some corned beef and cabbage and all this other happy-go-lucky bullshit. But the fact of the matter is, that's amateur hour. That's amateur hour.
Agreed.
The 4th is amateur hour. Do people drink too much? Yes. Do people get heat stroke because they've been pounding beers? I don't know. You're a drinker. You drink. I mean, do people get sick on the 4th? Yes. Are there too many people on vacation the week of the 4th? Sure. But amateur hour? When we have New Year's Eve and St. Patrick's Day, which are the epitome of amateur hour? I don't get it. Look, generally speaking, I think you have pretty good takes. That's one of your dumbest takes. It's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard, to be quite honest with you.
So that's fair. I lump it in with St. Patrick's Day and with New Year's. There's an element.
See, that's a cop-out. That is such a wuss move. So you had to – see, this is what you do. You had to be right. So what you said is, I'm going to lump it in with two holidays that are universally known as being amateur hour. And somehow the 4th is amateur hour.
So then, and now I backed myself into a corner.
You did, and I'm not letting you out this time. I'm going to pull a full Mike Tyson, Peter McNeely on you and pound the shit out of you.
So, and I don't want this to come off as, especially with where we're at right now, I love this country.
Don't make me put my Yankees hat on.
Well, no, we don't need another heel turn. Look, I love this country more than anybody. There's just something about the 4th.
I will give you that. You are very patriotic and American.
There's something about the 4th that that's never sat right with me. And I can explain it.
No. See, now we need to do a deep dive here. We need to do a deep dive, albeit a quick deep dive. But it doesn't sit right with you. Here's the thing. It's not like you don't wear T-shirts and shorts. I know you do because I've been to plenty of things with you that we've covered that are warm. So it's not a T-shirt and shorts thing.
No.
You like to drink. You like to eat. And I know you're a big protein guy. So what the hell don't you like about the 4th? And you love your country. So to recap, you love your country, you wear T-shirts and shorts, you like to drink, and you consume a lot of protein. So why don't you like the 4th? I mean, what the hell else do you want from the holiday?
So in fairness, I might not have thought this out all that well.
Clearly not.
Before I started ranting, but I think it's just more of a summer thing. I just hate summer in general.
Yeah, but again, okay. So I guess if your one argument is I hate the heat, which I know you don't like the heat, you're a true New Englander. You bellyache and bitch about the weather, and you're a sun wuss. I get it. And look, given your complexion, you probably wear SPF 1000, and you have to, you never mind being in the shade. I think you need to live in like a cave in the middle of nowhere this time of year,
100%.
not to get burned. All of that being said, really, and I get not liking the warm weather. Fine, we all have our weather preferences, but you cannot
So,
logically sit here and say I don't like the 4th and it's amateur hour
well,
simply
so
because it's hot.
that's just I should have said this to start with. The 4th of July is just, you're doing it all summer anyways. Like, people are out drinking.
Stop spinning this web of bullshit.
Yeah,
You
I'm
know,
not wrong,
see,
though.
here's the thing. You're on the brink of agreeing with me that maybe you
Yeah,
overthought this,
a little bit.
but you can't do it. That's just not who you are. That's
Correct.
not your personality. You
Correct.
have to be radio contrarian and pretend you hate something for the sake of hating it. You don't actually dislike the 4th. You're just a member of the miserable, of the fellowship of the miserable, I should say. And for you, it's not that you don't like the 4th. It's that you need something that encapsulates your hatred for the summer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rail against the 4th. Now, look, I admittedly, I kind of do the same thing with the winter. I hate the winter, even though my birthday's in the winter. My birthday's in February. I hate the winter with an unbridled passion. I hate the cold. I don't care for the holidays. I think they're annoying. But when I tell you that I don't care for the holidays, I give you valid reasons. I think it's manufactured happiness. That pisses me off. Why can't people be happier the rest of the year? They're only happy 30 days out of the year. That's annoying. The stress of it, okay? The high expectations of getting the right gift, the spending the money, okay? I just gave you valid reasons why I don't like the holiday, specifically Christmas. You just sat here and said, I don't like the 4th because it's warm. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
So I'm going to go with heat, and I'm not a big fan of fireworks. How about that? That's all I got.
Why? Were you doing like those little pop firecracker fireworks when you were a kid and
No,
one clipped your ankle and
no. If we wanted to do a deep
burned
dive,
you?
when I was really younger, I hated noise, hated it. So I kind of never.
So you decided to co-host the show with me?
Yeah, correct.
Ken Matthias checks in, and he's bringing some levity to the situation. Thanks for checking in, Ken. The heat is short-lived here in New England. I agree.
But
you can't complain about the heat. It's not around that long.
I was going to say so is the cold, but the cold is longer. I'll say that.
Short-lived, dude. It gets cold here at the end of October, and it's unrelenting until April. It's half the year, man. We're lucky if we get 4. Oh, look, there you go. My deodorant
I'm
pit
sweating my ass
stains
off
are
right
now
now.
popping up. But you're lucky if you get 4 months of warm weather up here, dude. I don't know what you're talking about. It's nowhere near the same. All right, you got some final thoughts here because clearly your 4th of July take was stupid. It sucks.
Yeah, I'll apologize.
Just take the L, eat the crap sandwich. It's over. You got any final thoughts?
When I quote tweet this tomorrow morning, I'll apologize publicly. Yeah, so you'll actually be happy to hear this. I've been all in on the CFL. If you're not watching the CFL,
product. Very underrated product.
So we'll have to talk the CFL offense one day because it's mind-blowing to me how creative you can get. But if you're not watching it, there's some New England talent there that people will remember, especially kid from Bryant, had a running back.
Daniel Adeboye.
Yes, thank you. Watching him the other night.
It's amazing to me how you have the memory of an octogenarian. It's like, the guy with the red suit who brings gifts.
We covered 17 Division I schools. Like, give me a break. But he was awesome the other night. The talent there is legitimate. Like, if you're looking for football on a Thursday,
a lot of guys that play big-time college ball in that league.
Yeah, man. Like, if you're looking for some games to watch on a Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, admittedly, it's a nice little thing to bet on as well. Start watching the CFL. It's on CBS Sports Network around this area. It's awesome. Like, I've been all in. I know our friend Alex Barth is a huge CFL guy. But again, if you're looking for some football.
When did he become a CFL guy? I call bullshit on that. I think the world of Barth, but that fraud alert.
He's the one that got me on. But no, in all honesty, if you're looking for some,
you didn't answer my question. When did he become a CFL guy?
We started talking about it last year. So, I lost the bet and it went on.
Oh, really? What did you pick? The Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and he had the Saskatchewan Rough Riders.
I actually was one of those teams. I lost it over, but no, in all honesty, it's good ball. Like it's entertaining. The end zones are massive. It's very different It's only 3 downs, which is wild to me as well. Like, there's definitely some different stuff you've got to get used to, but the talent is legitimate. It's legitimate football and very entertaining if you're looking for some ball to watch during the summer.
Is it better than the 4th of July?
Yes.
Okay. That's dumb. That's dumb. That is like your worst take ever.
I'll
That's
have plenty more this year.
Well, yeah, man, we're used to it. Ken Matthias comes back to the show. I don't know why he would at this point. This is great convo between you two. Ken then says he wants us to join his podcast. Yeah, Ken, we'll do the show, buddy. We'll figure it out where we'd love to be on. So we'll figure it out. We'll definitely, we definitely would love to come on with you and talk. And we appreciate you coming on with us every week, I should say, and watching the show and listening. So thanks for checking in. And let's make sure we talk and we'll figure out a time. All right. Do you have any other final thoughts other than jockeying the CFL and fake hating on the 4th? Because you got exposed tonight for being a fraud.
No, people need a couple weeks off from us.
After this conversation, they're probably going to need a couple of months off from us. I mean, because they still can't wrap their brain around how anybody can hate the 4th. And they're probably like, why does this guy do a show with this guy? Because all he does is shit on him. So, all right. All right. So those are your final thoughts. Are you done? Final
I was going to say, I ask the same thing every day. So, yes.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I have no final thoughts. I said what I needed to say and I'm done. But to Kevin's point, we are going to be off for the next 2 weeks. Of course, next week is 4th of July week. And then the following week, we're going to take off because we usually do take the first week of July off. So we're going to be back with you on Monday, July 14th. So it'll be a nice respite for you guys from us. That'll do it for this week's episode of the New England Football Show. For Kevin Stone, I'm John Sarianides. We will be back with you on July 14th. Until then, stay safe, stay happy, enjoy the 4th, and as always, peace.
See ya.